Hello students, in this tutorial I'm going to teach you how to use the simple present. Okay, so the first thing to review is our pronouns, right? We remember that the first person singular is I, which is always a capital letter. Second person is you. Third person is he, she, and it. He being for a male human being, for example, Bob or Mr. Smith. She being for a female human like Mrs. Jillian or Nancy. And it being for any object like a pencil or a chair, and any animal like a dog or a cat. Then getting into the plural, we have we, you, and they. Okay, so now that we have our pronouns, we can look into the simple present for our two most basic and common verbs, which are to be and to have. So if you remember, I is I am for the verb to be, you are, he, she, it is, we are, you are, and they are. And if we look at the verb to have, we have I have, you have, he, she, it has, not haves, has. Have again for we, you have, and they have. Wow, so we can see a lot of repetition, right? If we take a very common verb like the verb to love, you're going to see it's very, very similar, right? We just take the verb itself and we put it as I love, you love, he, she, it loves, we love, you love, and they love. Now, other than for the pronoun I and the verb to be, which is I am, you can see a pattern, right? We see are being repeated the whole time for to be. We see have being repeated and love. The only exception where we really see a change is in the third person singular, right? If you notice, that in each of these verbs, they always end with a letter S. Okay? A trick for me to remember that in the third person singular, right? So if a verb is being conjugated with he, she, it should always have an S at the end. Okay, so we have third person singular, so one, two, three for those three pronouns, and it's the third person singular, meaning that they end with the letter S. Pretty neat trick, right? Now, it's not always just adding the letter S, there are a few rules, so let's take a look at that. Okay, so for the simple present, I kind of look at it as three different rules, and we're actually going to start with rule 0. Okay, so up in the top left corner here, I'm going to write rule 0, and this rule is for any verb that you're conjugating with I, you, we, and they. Okay, with those pronouns, all we're going to do with the verb in the infinitive is to get rid of the word to. So really, it's like there's no change to the verb. Let me give you an example. If we take the verb to eat, right? If we want to conjugate this with the pronoun I, all we do is get rid of the word to, and it becomes I eat. And it would be the same thing for you, we, they. You eat, we eat, they eat. Very, very simple. And this is for any verb. Now, what if our verb is being conjugated with he, she, or it? Okay, so this is where we really need to pay attention to the verb. Rule number 1, all we have to do is add the letter S. And we're going to use this rule for the majority of verbs. I'm going to put like 75% of verbs. Of course, this is not an exact number, but it's really to tell us that it's the majority of verbs. So again, if we take the verb to eat and we want to conjugate it with the pronoun he, all we do is add s. So he eats. If we take another example, like the verb to run, right? Maybe it's a dog that's running. So it runs. Just add s. Now, rule number 2, we're going to add es, okay? And we add es for any verb that is ending with any of these letters, okay? So O, CH, SH, S, X, or Z. And a way to remember these different endings or these different letters is to think O, chips, on ships, Susie, Xavier, Zoe. Okay, I'll say that one more time. O, chips, on ships, Susie, Xavier, and Zoe. So any verb that ends with any of those letters, we need to add es. Okay, so here's an example: to wash, like to wash your hands. Okay, if we wanted to conjugate that with the pronoun she, we're going to put she washes, es. Or if we have the verb to go, right, that ends with the letter O, let's say we're using he, we're going to put he goes, es. All right, finally, we have rule number 3. And this one is the trickiest, so you really need to pay attention. This is for any verb that is ending with a consonant. So I'm just going to put the letter C for consonant and the letter Y. Okay? If you have a verb that ends with a consonant and the letter Y, you are going to put the Y into I. It's almost like it's transforming into an I, and then you add es. Okay? Here are some examples. We have the verb to dry. So that becomes he, she, it. Let's put he dries. Right? We see at the end of this verb that it ends with ry. R, is it a vowel? No, it's not. It's a consonant. And it ends with the letter Y. So the Y becomes I over here, and then we add es. Another example, to fly, right? Like a bird. So it flies, ies. Again, we look at the ending. It ends with the letter Y, and right before it, the L, that's a consonant. So we know the I becomes I, and we add es. Now, you might be asking, what if we have a verb that ends with the letter Y, but instead of a consonant, it's a vowel? In that case, we're going to return back to rule number 1, and all we do is add the letter S. Okay, so if it ends with, so ending with vowel and the letter Y, all we do is add S. So here's an example, the verb to play, right? A-Y. Y, so it ends with a Y, and then the A. This is a vowel, so this becomes plays. Let's say with she. She plays. Just with an S. So there you have it. Those are the 3 rules for using the simple present. Well, 4 if we count rule 0. So continue practicing this and good luck. Bye bye.